Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Crypto Blast with myself and the magnificent Camo Connor. I was going to try and think of a word beginning with C for the alliteration, but then it dawned on me that the C word that was coming to mind is one that I can't really say on air. It is Tuesday, the 13th of May, all day. Cam, as usual, will be giving us the ultimate rapid update on crypto markets, pricing flows and market moving news. But before he does, and so no one sues the tits off of us, let's get the legals out of the way. So nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ, institutional FI, myself, Ryan Paisley, or indeed the courageous Cam O'Connor.
There's another C word. Wait.
Oh God, how bad is it that I was really racking my brain to think of a C word that wasn't a C word?
Well, that's brightened my afternoon up. I'm not gonna lie.
Mate, that's what I'm here for. I'm here just to put a smile on your face, your beautiful face.
Oh,
What's
look at
occurring in crypto, my friend?
that. All right, yeah, get quite a few. Yeah, I'm figuring out how to segue away from this, but yeah, amazing, and that's exactly what this is for. Bring you up to date with crypto, put a smile on your face. Will
Exactly.
Cameron get called the C word? Who knows? Find out.
Honestly, I was sweating bullets at one point. I was like, I don't know any other C words. But anyway, look, we've got to move on from this. Tell us
We
what's been
have to.
going on.
We have to.
The C
Right,
word
let's.
the C word we need to speak about is crypto. There you go.
Yes, there we go. Bingo, nailed it. Nailed it. Third try, but
Seamless.
that's it. Let's jump into it. For those if you're listening live or if you're listening on a re-record and you've never listened to before, we'll start off running down with a little bit of price action updates, and then we'll jump into the news, and that will be it for the Crypto Blast. But there's quite a few different things, topics of interest. Whether you're interested into meme coins, there may be some
Oh
Truth
God,
Social meme coin news.
please.
Yeah, there may be, or we'll find out more about that. What could possibly happen there. Um, and some interesting news regarding the S&P. So if you like stocks and you're not into trading crypto, well, we have to wait and find out. But let's start off with the crypto market update. Bitcoin reached a high of $105,800 yesterday as China and the US announced a 90-day agreement for their tariff implementations. However, this buying momentum was short-lived as Bitcoin fell around 5% from the highs to the lows, reaching $101,000. This left many analysts feeling bearish about Bitcoin's short-term price action, and this bleeds down into the altcoin sector as well. The sentiment from top X accounts that cover crypto, especially on Spaces, they were essentially piling into the short side. I listened into quite a few different Spaces yesterday that cover a range of crypto topics, and they were all piling in to saying that it's a sell here and that they're hopping into short and they're yeah. Anyway, what does this mean? Well, likely nothing, if I'm really, really honest. If you're getting your financial advice from X Spaces, your head needs a little bit of a wobble. I think we'll leave it there. Last week, and just to reiterate this, last week we're moving across to Ethereum. ETH pulled in a massive 48% in gains from the lows to the highs, and with the crypto sector starting to see a slight pullback, I'll just point out here that Ethereum remains just 3.8% shy of last week's highs. Given the range that Ethereum likes to trading as an altcoin with relatively small market cap, it's incredible, that the fact it's managed to hold the support right up there.
Adding that context is very important. Yes, right, it's down, but bloody hell, if it deserves, you can give it a break, right? You can cut in some slack after the run it's been on, and and interestingly, we always see it with traditional markets. Sometimes the worst thing that can happen for a product or a market is it gets carried away in one direction too far, because it creates a lot of like air pockets beneath it, and there's a lot of weak length gets involved. And the healthiest thing for a bull market is pullbacks. And people, it's very easy to forget that, because obviously you've got the always up, only up kind of crowd, but that can be a very, very dangerous game if markets start doing that.
Yeah, some really, really good context added there.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome.
I've gone from calling you a cunt to then get praised.
Oh, welcome to crypto, my friend.
Welcome to the Crypto Blast. We're all friends here.
Yeah. So I mean, just reiterating on that, it moved massively Ethereum after, months of just, well, years really of downtrending,
Yeah.
especially against its peers, BTC being the biggest one. And then all of a sudden we've seen its biggest weekly move since 2021. And the fact it's holding up there, as we enter into a few days of the next week, there's strength. We can see that there's buyers enter into the market at these prices. There's definite interest. Maybe this was just the injection or the kick up the butt it needed in order to kind of regain itself into circulation, gain some trust potentially.
I suppose, yeah, the longer it can hold these levels, the more bullish you get, right?
Yeah, exactly that.
There you
So moving down the market cap list in no particular order, Solana's trading at $174, XRP at $2.54, BNB is currently trading at $653. You'll notice across the top 100, XRP is the top performer of the last 24 hours, with 3% in gains toward the upside, and spot gold under the ticker PAXG is sitting in fourth place in 24-hour volume, trading at around $3,268. I'm going to be honest. On our last spaces, which was Friday,
Yeah.
Solana's not moved. It's literally the same. It has moved. Obviously, had some volatility in wide ranges, but coming from the spaces that we did on Friday to the spaces
It's
that
the
we're doing
crypto
right
blast
now.
index price. So whatever it was,
Yes, that's exactly
whenever we
it.
go to print,
We're pegging
whenever we go to print, it's not moved.
it. Exactly. There would be no gap up or gap down. It's very, very much neutral. So I'm not seeing a lot of hate for Solana in the timeline, but it's definitely not held as much as or performed as well as Ethereum has, and definitely not gaining as much traction. I'll tell you something that has caught my attention,
Go on.
which I hate to mention this on such a civilized crypto
It's like
spaces such as
Bitcoin again,
Crypto
is it?
Blast. It's not Farcoin. It
Oh,
is probably worse.
oh
It's
no.
the it's the metagaming ecosystem.
Oh goodness.
That whole web through gaming, it seems to be picking up a bit of traction recently. So I am sure that no doubt we're going to start seeing tickers like Sandbox and Gala and all those types of 2020 coins start being rotated into the news cycles over the next week or so. But you heard it here first, just in
There
case
you go.
it
Exactly
does
that.
happen.
Exactly that. Exactly. We look, if it doesn't happen, we'll just pretend this conversation didn't take place.
Well, it didn't until it does.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that.
Until it matters, we haven't discussed anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. So moving on to the news I'm going to say over the weekend and
yeah.
over the
That's
last
fair enough.
24 hours. So BlackRock amended its S1 filing for their Ethereum ETF, which has the ticker ETHA, on May 9th. And they introduced in-kind creation/redemptions, allowing shares to be directly exchanged for Ethereum instead of cash. Now, a shift from the cash-based system is used since the ETFs launched in July of last year. This change aligns with BlackRock's earlier move in January of this year, basically the same conversion that they applied for the Bitcoin ETFs, with the ticker IBIT. Just note that this obviously is subjected to approval with the SEC, and oh dear, I didn't realize the word expected was going
Oh,
to
you
be
were
the word that
lucky I was
tripped me up
sneezing.
today.
You were lucky I was sneezing as you messed that up because I was about to try and take a piss.
Yeah, so it's expected in November 10th. Um, barring my mishap to the word expected. Who would have expected? Now, moving on. BlackRock amended its iShares Bitcoin ETF IBIT filing on May 9th as well, adding detailed quantum computing risk disclosures highlighting potential threats to Bitcoin's cryptography, which could compromise network security and wallet integrity if quantum advancements break current encryption methods. The filing noted that quantum computing could devalue Bitcoin by enabling malicious actors to exploit vulnerabilities, a concern amplified by rapid quantum algorithmic implementations and improvements. So,
That,
they also added this into the Ethereum ETF as
that's an
well.
interesting one because when a little while ago when we were doing a crypto blast, it was like the day after Google, whoever it was, announced that new quantum chip and all that rubbish. And we did flag then, didn't we? There was a lot of conversations going on. Some people saying it won't have any impact. Some people saying this could feasibly, unless there's an update in between it becoming mainstream and when it gets launched, that potentially quantum computing could unravel security in crypto. So I think that's a very interesting one to watch. And the fact that it's actually making filings now shows that it's not just a bit of kind of a fear kind of punting. It's it's a genuine concern.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If BlackRock see the need to add it into their risk
Yeah, right.
disclosure, you need to pay attention to it. And I
Exactly
think if
that.
you can have a chat with anybody who knows anything about quantum computing, above an X-Space's, armchair level, they'll tell you that that's absolutely a potential risk in the future. So there we go. Makes sense as to why
Again,
BlackRock are getting ahead of the curve.
yeah, no, absolutely. So again, I'm sorry to interrupt and sorry to, but I think it is kind of relevant. But yeah, we have this kind of unforeseen kind of impact, which is obviously quantum computing, and it's. I think we do have to raise remind people about what happened in Spain and Portugal not so long ago, where the whole basically nearly the whole country went out of power. And I think that's again an unseen, unknown. That is a known unknown. What happens when that happens again or somewhere else, especially as we see grid infrastructure going more green, which puts more pressure on the kind of the variables going into the grid, and it's you only need a few of the networks to kind of lose their ampage or whatever it is. I'm no expert in this, but it's one of the the measurements that kind of get wavered if everything's relying on a unstable source. I think it's amps, or I can't remember what it is. But anyway, I think these are kind of things that people, if we are moving to a more crypto centric world, you need to have some kind of disaster recovery in mind for when this happens, right? Because cold storage on a wallet, it's great, but you still need power to boot it up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You see, these risks need to be mitigated before, absolute, adoption is being taken into place.
And I think anyone out there that's smarter than, well, definitely smarter than me, that anyone that can solve that issue, I think you've just printed yourself a blank check.
I know there are currently a few lads working on that very thing right this second.
Oh, really?
Uh,
What? So, like, in terms of,
yeah,
without giving names away, but in terms of like how to access Bitcoin without power and all that stuff.
yeah. Well, you can actually trade Bitcoin and exchange BTC via the ultra low Bluetooth.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but not many people know how to do it, so it's vastly pointless if no one knows how to do it. But you can actually exchange. There is a way to do it via ultra. So your phone can be dead essentially, and you can still make those transactions. But yeah,
Well,
that
there you
that
go.
knowledge isn't really out there.
There you go. That's another thing I've learned on the Crypto Blast.
There we go. Ultra low. I can't remember what it's called. Ultra low Bluetooth or something like
Nothing to do with height.
that.
Being
Being
called
sad
worse.
of being small. Yeah.
All right,
Right,
well,
moving
thank
on
you. That's
then.
funny.
Moving
Moving
on.
on.
Moving on. I can't argue because we're basically the same height, aren't we?
6.2.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it. I was 6.4, mate.
Yeah, yeah,
6.4.
yeah,
Don't sell
yeah,
yourself
yeah,
short.
yeah, exactly.
So Dell shareholders rejected the proposal to evaluate Bitcoin for the company's treasury at the 2025 annual meeting, reflecting a cautious stance on cryptocurrency adoption amid a broader trend of corporate hesitation. We saw this with Microsoft, their similar rejection back in December of last year. So no potential for Dell to add to the balance sheet. Coinbase to join the S&P 500.
Ooh, nice.
Coinbase's inclusion in the S&P 500 this year marks a major milestone as the first pure play crypto firm in the index. They replaced Discover Financial Services, with the stock surging over 5% in after hours trading. Traded, I think it reached over to $217 last night.
I think just obviously it's great news for the industry and great news for Coinbase, and that two things I'll flag. One is really positive, I think, and kind of quite ironic that Coinbase is replacing a very, very, very old school DeFi company. I mean, like this Discover doesn't really get much older and kind of more set in their ways and like boomer than that. So I think that's kind of like a nice little pip. However, one thing worth noting as well is obviously everyone, well, the same old Herberts were posting the charts from the after hours trading yesterday, and it was like just one huge green candle. If you zoom out, we're down like six. Well, we were last night down like 16% on the year still. So it's like, yeah, rein it in, lads, rein it in.
Yeah, Coinbase's Q1 reports didn't exactly pave a positive sentiment going into this year either. They were
But
basically like,
you know,
we need to focus on Q2 to see what our earnings are before we
yeah,
put out any decent projections.
but this is it. But
Which
yeah,
I
the
suppose
shit
was with the
sandwich.
get out free jail card, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's do a shit sandwich. So yes, it was quite, it was a nice ironic touch that Boomer Fi is being replaced by crypto. Yes, it was,
Yeah,
yes, zoom out. It's not exactly been a good year for Coinbase. Sorry, yeah. But finishing with some bread, it's great news for the industry as a whole. And I'm kind of, you got
yeah,
to back Michael Saylor when he said, this is kind of one of those moments. It's the first, as you said, pure play in the S&P 500, and may there be many more.
yeah, absolutely. I think we could expect that soon in the near future. So moving on, slightly away from the United States, the Blockchain Group, a French company, announced on May 12th a 12, also about to say $1 million, but no, million euros convertible bond issuance to expand its Bitcoin treasury strategy, aiming to increase Bitcoin holdings per share using excess cash and financing tools as part of their broader plan that they initiated back in November of last year. To the Blockchain Group to add more BTC to the treasury.
Just
So on to
so
go on.
just quickly on this, because obviously we're seeing and you yourself called it a little while ago, we're seeing a massive rise in the number of Bitcoin treasury entities perking up. Obviously everyone loves making an ETF. It seems like anyone can make an ETF at the moment. Is there any ETFs currently which kind of focus purely on the Bitcoin treasury plays, such as um, well, who've we got? We've got like 3 or 4 that would be in there at the moment. It'd be interesting to see, the performance on them. Obviously, they've got slightly different makeups and stuff, but it'd be interesting to see if there's any ETF play in the works for that kind of industry or that kind of subsector. Sorry.
Yeah, there are two that come to mind. I can't remember their exact tickers though. One of them covers basically companies with, I think, top 30 companies with Bitcoin, X amount of Bitcoin on their
Right.
balance
So
sheet.
like they've
So
got to
if
have a minimum number of bitcoins to qualify, kind of thing.
yes,
Right, got you.
yeah, exactly. I'm not sure if there's an exact treasury ticker out there that focuses on
Give
those,
it a
but I'm
wink.
sure with the amount of exactly, I'm sure with the amount of ETFs that are getting listed,
Yeah, right,
there's bound
exactly
to be
that.
one of them.
Exactly that.
Don't check the spreads on them.
Yeah, God, yeah. Very good point, Cam. Very good point.
So moving on, probably, I mean, hopefully, none of the listeners are super degenerate into the old meme coins, but True Social, a platform launched by Trump Media and Technology Group back in 2022, they denied rumors of a meme coin launched on May 13th. They basically counteracted speculation that had been circulating on X since the 12th of May, as reported by the Street Crypto edition. So if you found yourself in a GJT ticker, um,
You're in the wrong one.
it's not. Yeah, you're in the wrong one. You're in the wrong one. You're about to get rugged. Red flag. But anyway, it could be legit. Who knows? This might to them just be front running. Going, oh no, they released it before we did.
But and also they might be going, hang on, guys, we're taking a bit of heat with this free plane from Qatar. Maybe we need to chill our jets a little bit.
Maybe they need to just play on the free playing meme
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
launch
exactly.
that as a True Social meme. Yeah.
Exactly.
An idea that you didn't hear from me. Moving
Yeah,
on.
very much so. Very much so. Quick, move on.
So moving on to something regarding the SEC, quick
Oh
positive
God.
news. So Paul Atkins, who's the newly appointed chairman of the SEC, he emphasized yesterday creating a logical regulatory framework for cryptocurrencies, aiming to balance innovation with investor protection, highlighting in his recent speech. So yesterday he just went on to say, this is their top agenda. And, I kind of believe it, especially with the push that
Yeah.
cryptocurrencies have
Yeah.
had since the beginning of January. There's an absolutely need to get this framework established and put into place yesterday, let alone, in sometime in the future. Of course, we saw the Genesis Act get thrown out essentially and is kind of being revised at the moment. We did talk about this numerous at times on the Crypto Blast. that the Genesis Act, as it stood, essentially made trading or interacting with the company Tether illegal.
Yeah.
No, not just the stable coin, but the company itself. So no doubt, our expectations was that Genesis Act did get, kind of thrown out, and it was a close vote. Close vote was 48 to 49. They needed 60 votes, however, to pass the Genesis Act, and it failed. It's in its review. I would imagine, working with companies like Tether basically gets rectified so that these major institutions like, 21 Capital, as we've discussed, who are starting off with more than $3.8 billion of Bitcoin backed in their treasury, and 1.6 of that is coming from Tether themselves. They wouldn't be able to illegally operate, let alone be listed on several exchanges from launch, with the Genesis Act in play. So no doubt we'll start to see this regulation
Right.
get put in with more clearer framework, which can work around existing companies, and so these players don't have to go back and rework everything. Go, oh, sorry guys, we can't actually launch.
Yeah. Right.
The
Sorry about that.
the mechanism that might actually take down micro strategy. Oh, sorry guys, we can't actually launch. All right, never mind.
Yeah. No, exactly.
So moving on to another major company, Meta, as we know, run by Mark Zuckerberg, is reportedly planning to launch a stablecoin on the Ethereum network this year. They aim to integrate crypto payments for over 3 billion users. And this, of course, followed their failed crypto project back in 2022. I'm not going to get into the 2022 project itself, but focusing on the here and now
Yeah.
news, a stablecoin on Facebook, well, Meta as it's known as, obviously is huge. You talk about WhatsApp, you talk
Yeah.
about
Yeah. Yeah.
Instagram, Facebook, an integration through all those
And it makes a lot of
platforms.
sense
Uh,
when you think about how
yeah,
how global Facebook is. You could be best, Facebook, you could be best friends with someone in Timbuktu. And if you need to like kind of transfer, or you'd want to, do work or business with them, or whatever business, or want to buy from the Facebook shop or whatever, or whatever, I think this is a prime play for a stable coin, something like that, where you're not local to, in terms of geography, you're local in terms of your friends and your network. So I think this could be a really beneficial thing for that, and also for stable coins as a whole, right? We keep saying on here, it's not necessarily about how the billions going through. It's just more about, in terms of value, it's more about the number of people that can actually access it and use it. Like we used QR codes, didn't we, before, as a great example. No fucker, no fucker really knew how to use QR codes. Well, I certainly didn't until COVID, and then you're being forced to use them to order because you can't get within 2 meters of someone. And all of a sudden now my nan and my granddad and my mum and my dad, they all love QR codes. So it's that kind of like adoption, and just making it such a like a without you're not saying, oh god, I'm going to transfer something on crypto. It's now second nature to use crypto, be that a stable coin or whatever. I think this is where you really start unlocking some serious doors to your network effect.
absolutely. And at that point, when you have something as big as Meta
Yeah.
adopting a stablecoin, you're thinking about, the scares of on ramping and off ramping. Off ramping can be, particularly difficult in certain
Oh,
regions. Well,
massively.
all of a sudden, if this is your main focus and this is how you trade currency, well, then you're not necessarily worried about off ramping if you know that, I can receive, stable coins, and I'm going to send stable coins to another person to
Exactly
purchase
that.
something. So
Exactly.
then that takes away that fear.
Exactly that, especially for, and again, I guess, where everyone listening to this is going to be kind of, probably like youngish, very tech savvy and stuff. But as soon as you start unlocking that huge, probably the majority of people that have no idea about tech, no idea about what crypto really is, but you just make a form of payment accessible to them, then all of a sudden they don't even know they're using crypto, basically. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. So we've just got two more stories to cover. Appreciate we're coming up, on almost 30 minutes here. So Animoca Brands, a Hong Kong-based Web3 company, is planning a US listing, capitalizing on Donald Trump's crypto-friendly policies, which include reduced regulatory burdens and promoting digital asset adoption through his executive orders coming in January. This was reported by Reuters and via PIQ suites, which you can access lots and lots of
Yes.
news relevant to any part of the
Yeah.
financial industry and geopolitical, if that's what takes your fancy, and all that type of stuff. So definitely head on over to PIQ and sign up.
Thank you very much for the plug.
More than welcome. And lastly, Nakamoto co-founder David Bailey will help form a new Bitcoin treasury. The new treasury will form from a merger between holding company Nakamoto and healthcare firm Kindly MD. The company raised over $200 million in convertible debt and $510 million from investors to launch the new entity. No doubt we'll be hearing more from this story as we get more details, but that is all. No, actually, I've got one more.
Go on.
It's Trump related.
Oh
Oh
no.
dear.
Oh no.
GD Culture Group Limited, a company focused on integrating digital assets into operations, announced a $300 million stock sale to fund its crypto treasury, specifically targeting Bitcoin, Fine, and the Trump meme coin as part of their quote
Whoa,
unquote
whoa, whoa.
broader decentralized finance
Sorry.
strategy.
Sorry, they're doing Bitcoin and the Trump meme coin as part of their treasury operation.
Yes.
Oh, behave. Are they doing this to get in for dinner or what? This is bonkers.
Unfortunately, that deadline's finished.
Has anyone
So
told them?
I would like to. Yeah, no, I don't think they have. I don't think they have. What have they done? What have they done?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh,
You didn't hear that
what
question from
a
me.
place
You
to end it.
didn't. Yeah.
Jesus. Okay. Yeah, well, maybe don't include that one in the Treasury ETF that we were just speaking about. But Cam, thank you so much. Again, I know we're trying to keep these 15 minutes and we're like nearly double that, but it's been value and we've had a bit of fun. So that's the main thing. Listeners, what you can do, as Cam mentioned about the PIQ platform and stuff, we've actually got our new product launching, which is an embeddable news widget. And don't tell anyone, but if you go to piqsuite.com, if you look on the right hand side, you'll see a little like green box. Click that, and we're basically using that to beta test the new embeddable widget. And if you have a little play around with it, there is a dedicated crypto feed on there as well. So have a look, let us know what you think. Yeah, and hopefully it's a decent product that will add some value to people that want to stay on top of crypto news. But anyway, enough from us. Cam, as always, thank you so much, my dear friend. Listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, especially you guys that are playing this back on the replay, which is nearly all of you. Welcome from the past. And yeah, we'll see you all tomorrow. Take care. Much love.
See you then.